Hey everyone, welcome to another Power Monkey podcast. On today's episode, Chad and I interview Logan Aldridge. Logan is one of the most inspirational people we have ever met. He's been to our Power Monkey camp a few times. We're fortunate enough to have him assist in our Power Monkey adaptive training seminar right now as well that we do at camp. But Logan's story is absolutely incredible. When he was 13 years old, he was in a wakeboarding accident that took his left arm. And now he lives by the mindset of it's just an arm. And he really tries to instill the mentality of looking at every day and looking at life with what can we do rather than what can't we do. And he's become an inspiration to many people all around the world. He also started very recently the Adaptive Training Academy with some other people. And this Adaptive Training Academy has become an incredible resource for coaches and athletes all over the world looking to not only understand how to move more appropriately with adaptive athletes, but also how to coach them, how to manage different situations with different impairments. And they are definitely leading the charge when it comes to adaptive training. I highly recommend listening to this and reaching out to Logan afterwards. He's a wealth of knowledge and someone that's incredibly inspiring to me and the rest of the Power Monkey team. Enjoy.
Logan, welcome to the show and thank you for joining us today.
It is an honor to be here. Gosh, old friends I haven't seen in too long, Dave and Chad. Freaking awesome.
It's been too long. It definitely has been too long. And you've been a member of the Power Monkey family now for a good number of years. You know, you started as a scholarship winner, been a camper, and now you've even been on staff coaching the adaptive seminar that we now do there. And Another thing that you've been a big part of every time that you've been with us at camp is our Campfire Story segment. And you started, along with that, you started doing motivational speaking at a very young age, at about 13, shortly after your accident that we're going to talk about a little bit. And, the first question that I want to ask, that I love to ask is, why do you speak? Why are you so compelled to tell your story? And what do you hope that the listeners get out of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And man, to bring back up, to give the listeners some context, God, just like warms my heart. It makes me think of all those memories, man, being at adult fitness camp with you guys. Like, God, truly some of the best memories in my life are from that camp. But before I digress like crazy, me speaking, man. Yeah, I started speaking at the age of 14, and it absolutely was not ever like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to be a motivational speaker when I grow up or after this accident. It just happened, frankly. And now I have some more context to that. Like, I don't, people say public speaking is like a top 5 fear. It's not at all for me. Mm-hmm. I get the butterflies, but I don't get anxiety, or maybe I do, but the way my brain interprets anxiety is excitement. So I just get real, like butterflies, the shakiness, all that stuff that people typically associate with anxiousness and maybe fear. I associate that with excitement and exhilaration and like joy. So when that stuff starts to happen, I'm like, oh, something really good is about to happen. Something really cool is something that I'm going to be uncomfortable through is about to happen, which on the other side is going to mean that I'm discovering something new about myself. Maybe I grow, maybe I fail and I learn from it, but something's going to happen. There's going to be some epiphany or outcome at the end.
Right.
And that's really it's selfishly for me. That's why I get up and speak.
Right.
I think I'm an entertainer more than I am this stoic kind of motivator or inspirational individual. I just like to bring some energy and to get people excited about whatever it is in their life. So I tell my story, and that's how it came about. Man, I lost my arm at 13. My mom quickly realized, as I was hanging out with friends again, and I'd be walking in the grocery store, and a little kid would say, to his mom walking by me, "Mom, what's wrong? Where is this kid's arm?" And I never heard that or observed that as a negative impression to me. I would always turn and be like, "Oh, that's so funny. They wonder where my arm is." Because I thought the same thing. If I was that kid, I would see someone in a wheelchair or someone missing a limb and be like, "Oh my God, what happened to their limb?" And I'm sure I said it out loud. So when that would happen, even, 6 months after losing my arm, I would turn and be like, "Oh, hey, little man. Oh, crazy. I was wrestling an alligator and it just ripped it right off. Like, be careful about wrestling alligators." So I would tell random funny stories. And then often I would tell kids when they're with their mom, I'd be like, when I was your age, I never listened to my mother when she would say, eat your vegetables. And what happens? Some parents would turn to me and be like, thank you. And others would be like, oh my God, my kid is terrified now. So I always had fun with it. And I guess to get back to the question and answering it, my mom was the pusher. She was one who in the ambulance told me, when I said, Mom, what if I lose Mom? She's the one who said, Logan, it's just an arm. Now, please don't take it out of context in the sense that like she was a hard ass. It wasn't that, but she was one to not comfort me or say, oh, it's going to be okay. She was very much a realist. And in that sense of telling me, Logan, it's just an arm. It's the great perspective I needed to hear. 6 months later, when I'm just interacting with people, super comfortable with being this kid with one arm now, she realized, said, Logan, she worked for Wells Fargo at the time and they had a big annual conference coming up. She said, Logan, I think you should speak at the conference. And I've already reached out to the president and told him that you would be a guest speaker. So we should work on your message and what that would look like. And I was like, okay, Mom, sure. I guess so. Okay.
Wait, and how old were you at the time for that?
I was 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was 14. She didn't have experience in it. I obviously didn't have experience in it. I was just a kid who had some energy and was not fearful to get on a stage and to hold a mic. So we had documented the process and my experience. And throughout that time, by the time I gave that speech, it was a little over a year after my accident. Throughout that time, I had fulfilled that opportunity to go meet Bethany Hamilton and to hang out with her and exchange our different experiences with our accidents. Hers obviously way more aggressive than mine, freaking beast of the ocean. But we were able to interact, and she was able to introduce me back into surfing, something I was very, very passionate about before my accident. And I got her to wakeboard for the first time, which was obviously the root of my injury and accident and my passion. So it was the start of realizing, okay, number one, I'm not alone. There's other people out here, and there's other people just like me out here that this happened to, who are still hard chargers and pursuing their passions, their dreams. And I guess for me, I just used that platform at 14 to speak to Wells Fargo to say, all right, gang, listen, I'm 14. I don't know what's going on. I don't know the world. I don't know what y'all struggle with, but let me tell you a story. And here's my story, blah, blah, blah. And now from that story, I say, okay, there's my story. Now, again, I'm 14 years old, but I could imagine that there is a template here within this story that if applied or if thought through, whether your challenge, your crisis, your obstacle looks way different. Some examples, maybe you've just gone through a divorce, maybe a massive career change, maybe the loss of a loved one. Maybe you're a young kid and you have a kid and you just moved for a career and now this kid is devastated. They're having to identify a new school. These are all just challenges. These are all just unforeseen crises, obstacles, things that come up. And all I'm saying is, here's the method of which I use to overcome mine, to shift my mindset, to change my perspective. Maybe there is some processes within this we could pull out and you could apply into your unfortunate circumstance or how you're perceiving this situation. And you might pivot, you might shift, you might realize, oh, it's not that bad, or wow, through this unfortunate thing, tremendous benefit is going to come. And that's the general theme of my first speech. The actual message was about going beyond expectations. So I was distilling this message to business professionals about how to not be an overachiever, but how to do the unexpected and the impact that can have in your professional and personal life. So for me, it was about being the guy with one arm who was not afraid to go immediately after my accident into like football strength and conditioning camp, right into a lacrosse camp, right into breaking my bone breaking through my muscle, having to go back into the hospital, get more bone amputated, and then getting back out and going straight into another strength and conditioning summer camp. That was just perceived by my peers and my family as like, holy shit, what is Logan doing? Like, he needs to recover and heal and then figure out what his life can look like with one arm. But instead, he's just like, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go try to do this. Can I jump in the water and try to wakeboard now? I still have stitches and I'm going to do it anyways. So that was my approach. And it wasn't this kid trying to be like, hey, look at me, I can still do all these things. It was me being obsessed with obsessed with not accepting expectations from others, obsessed with not accepting no. Because I lost my dominant arm. I was left-handed. So immediately, doctors, teachers, everyone within my support network was like, wow, this is going to be tough. You know, writing, that's going to be so hard. We'll figure it out. But man, what are you going to be able to do and not do? Oh, like that's where everybody's head went. And I thought, what is this is wasted thought. Like, why are you even thinking these things? Like, yeah, okay, writing will be hard, but I'll figure that out when I get to that. And like, don't worry about what I can and can't do. Don't try to imagine what someone with one arm can or can't do. I have to go do it myself. And that's where this term expectation came about, because it was the first exposure to realizing that we live in a world of expectations. I always knew we all know what expectations are and how we define that in our own heads, whether it's what is the weather going to be like today? What is this workout we're about to do going to feel like? These are expectations. But what I was exposed to was this personal expectation of others on you. In other words, like people telling me what I'd be capable of. Logan, you're not going to be able to write. So I had to write, and not to spite people, but to not accept expectations. And that's when that's famous Michael Jordan quote: "If you accept the expectations of the others, especially the negative ones, you'll never change the outcome." Similarly to, sort of that Wayne Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, like very traditional statements, but have profound impact in the experiences I was having at that age. So I took that to heart, and I thought, yeah, if I just accept these expectations, then I will be disabled. I will be handicapped, one-arm person that needs help for certain things, and there will be certain things I just can't do. And I refused to live a life in that way. And I'm still to this day trying to figure stuff out. Like, I still am faced with challenges and things where I'm wondering, oh my God, can I do that? Like, I don't know. And I have to try. A very long-winded answer to say, my passion and purpose behind speaking is just because I'm just a dude like everybody else. I just happen to not be fearful or worried about getting in front of an audience. I'm not concerned with being judged. I'm not concerned with people placing expectations or making thoughts or assumptions about me. I'm very comfortable in my skin and in what I believe in. So I'm always excited to share that with other people.
Logan, I mean, that message, and I mean, what you spoke about in reference to why you like to speak and why you think it's beneficial, I mean, it kind of crosses a lot of different areas, and I don't think it has to do specifically with just being comfortable speaking in front of people. It speaks to a larger message. And I would like you to go into a little bit of what happened, just so people have some context, especially from your own voice. But I'm also curious about whether or not the injury and the accident help facilitate this new mentality. Or, I mean, you're a 14-year-old kid. I mean, the things that you're stating, most adults don't have the capacity to do. And that's why probably your mom wanted you to speak in front of Wells Fargo. Like, it's a very difficult thing to be able to say, it's just an arm. It's a very difficult thing to be able to say, don't look at other people's expectations and, use that as a validation point in terms of, what you think you're capable of doing. Were you like that prior to the injury? Was that just your mentality as a 14-year-old kid, as like, in your life? Or did the injury and the accident kind of change your perspective in terms of how you viewed things?
Great question. And I'll answer that, and then I'll explain a little bit more about my accident and how it happened. Mm-hmm. But it would be nice. It would be really nice and sound and look cool if I could say this accident, made me into the man I am today. And who knows? Like, even this is just my opinion, and I don't know it to be true. But I love that you bring that up, and I get asked that a lot. People are like, Logan, I think you just were this way. I think if you lost your arm or not, you were just going to be this hard charging, trying to figure something out, try to excel highly at one thing. Would have been who you are. And I agree with that. I think I would have been. And that's what wakeboarding was for me when my accident happened. I wasn't doing it just as a 13-year-old, like, Saturday on the walk. No, I was training. Like, there was intention. I was trying to master a routine and a set of tricks to compete, win competitions, move on to a different division, all that sort of stuff. So it was very much driven by a competitive nature within me. And I think that is what, regardless of the accident, is who I am, is competitive. And before my accident, I think I was very much a rebel, for lack of a better term, a little bit of a fucker. If I was able to use some vulgar language on here, I was just kind of like, I was a grom. I was at the beach. Me and my buddies, we would freaking beer bong a 12-pack of Dr. Pepper. Like we were insane, man. We were insane young kids. I was a professional paintball player at the age of 12. So 11 and 12, my parents signed off, and I was traveling with 18, 19, and 20-year-olds on a professional paintball team. Because I was 11 and 12, and I had older brother who, beat me up all the time as a young kid. So being shot with paintballs, I was like, this doesn't hurt at all. It's just fine. So I'd be the guy running to the 50 and being this fearless little grom who would do anything that the team told me to do. So I was on a professional paintball team, sponsored and all this stuff. So I was going against the grain always before my accident. I was never accepting expectations or rules or guidance from other people before my accident.
Fair enough.
Through my accident, I think I became I think I grew up pretty quickly, and I think I realized, the issue that I think most kids have, thinking they're invincible. I quickly realized I wasn't. I was like, holy shit, okay, I could die. I could die at any we all could die at any point. And that sounds a bit pessimistic, but it was a bit of a realism shock at that age. And I just became very grateful, and that obviously has a lot to do with that profound statement my mother told me in that time, into how I perceived that entire situation or point in my life was, it's just an art. And that truly changed everything within me. It's weird, man. I don't even know how to express that. That phrase, changed my DNA. It changed everything about who I am. And I don't think it's the accident. I think it's literally those words. I think I had to form, when those words hit me, everything became okay. Everything was great. All right, cool. Let's move on.
Right. It reminds me of Jocko Willink, just always saying good, no matter how awful the situation is. You lose your job, house burns down,
Yes.
Pandemic strikes, good. How do I look at this as an opportunity? And
Yes.
It seems very similar mentality to what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely.
So with regards to the actual injury, can you go into a little bit?
Yes.
What happened?
Absolutely.
I'm sure you've talked about this a million times, but
hey, never gets old, man. Yeah, I love sharing. So yeah, obviously I've alluded to it quite a bit, but 13 years old, wakeboarding, not just for fun, but very much intentional training. And it was the evening of a Saturday at Lake Gaston, Virginia. So I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm born and raised here, and that lake is like an hour and a half away, so it's really not that far at all. But in the middle of nowhere, that area, the border of North Carolina and Virginia, is a bunch of nothing, and there's a big lake right there on the border. That's Lake Gaston. That's where we grew up. We got a lake house there when I was very young, 8 years old. Going up to that property the first time, walking out to our dock when it was built before the house was there, watching in our cove a wakeboard boat drive by and seeing this rider jump in the air from wake to wake at that age, 8 or 9. I had no idea that existed, first of all. I thought you just skied, and so people did behind boats, skiing. And I was into snowboarding. I was super into skateboarding. I was surfing every weekend, telling you guys about that crazy lifestyle of Dr. Peppers and everything else. Extreme life. That's what I was living for. And so I saw that and my jaw dropped. I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen on the water. I had no idea it existed. I became obsessed with the word wakeboarding, watching every video, buying every DVD, VHS. I don't even remember what they were at that time. And so a few years later, we got our first wakeboard boat. We bought it from the 1999 world champion who lived at Lake Gaston, Michael Weddington. Wow. And my mother was doing really well at Wells Fargo, and she went to him and said, hey, my son wants to wakeboard. I want him to get lessons from you, and I'd like to buy your boat. And so he was like, that's pretty badass. Yeah, you can buy my boat. And it was such a cool boat. And, you know, it was very custom for him as a pro and all that. So I was honored to get it. And he wasn't one to teach lessons, but he was like, yeah, I mean, this seems like a pretty awesome thing that you're trying to do for your kid. I'd love to teach him. So I got some lessons from him, then just became hooked, man. And I saw it that way. I saw it that way as a sport and how to get better at it by practicing, not as this just recreational fun hobby. So finished riding on that Saturday, and I was pulling in. If the listeners are unfamiliar with wakeboarding or a wakeboard boat, there's a tower on these boats where the rope connects to. So the rope doesn't connect to the back of the boat like you would with skiing or tubing. It connects typically above the center of the boat. It's called a tower. And again, a wakeboard rope is typically not elastic at all. It's almost like a cable. This one, from myself, was actually coated in plastic and literally looked like a cable. But for a wakeboarder, you don't want elasticity. You want that rope to be always the same tension and tight when you're riding. So we just finished riding. A friend of mine finished his last set, and he lived about 5 docks down from me, maybe 100 yards or so. We dropped him off at his dock and pushed back the boat from the dock and waved goodbye. And then it was my job to put away the life jackets, pulling the rope. So I started pulling the rope using that over the thumb, under the elbow technique that listeners should be familiar with like a, you know, extension cord or rope or garden hose maybe that we use. And so I had that, my left arm at that 90-degree angle looping over thumb under the elbow. I had about 2 loops like that as I was standing on the back platform of the boat and with the end still connected to the tower. And I look back and notice that the rope has drifted. It's like, some of it is like underneath the back platform that's like right on the water. Again, if you're unfamiliar with wakeboard boats, it's hard to paint this picture perfectly, but the prop, the motor in a wakeboard boat is really up underneath the boat. It's an inboard motor and it's very much almost in the center of the boat underneath it. But in the back of the boat, there's this platform where you put on your board and jump in the water. Underneath that is like a wedge that helps make the wake bigger. Sometimes the rope gets caught on there when you're being a little bit careless. So that's all I chalked it up to be. I thought, oh, maybe it's just caught on there. So as I had those 2 loops, I just turned to my dad and I'm like, oh, Dad, rope's underneath the boat again. And we were just in gear. So we had pushed off from my friend's dock and the boat was just out of idle, just in gear enough just to be moving. Like I said, we were about 4 or 5 docks away from our place. And that's plenty of speed for that propeller to be spinning very fastly under the water, obviously. And with those couple loops around my arm, as soon as I told my dad that, where I thought the rope was just near underneath the platform, it was actually, a lot of it had drifted and was underneath, deep underneath the boat. And in that moment when I told my dad, and he went to turn off the motor for the safety precaution of jumping in the water to see what's going on, the propeller caught the rope. It caught it, and when it caught it, as you can imagine, it tangled it, it wound it very fastly around that spinning prop. And when it did that, with the understanding of the other end being connected to the wakeboard tower, the only thing in between was my arm at that 90-degree angle with those 2 loops over my thumb under the elbow. So when that tension occurred, it was plenty of tension to slip off my thumb. It may have broken my thumb. I don't really recall or know, but slipped off my thumb and cinched down above the elbow. So around sort of the mid bicep, tricep area. And the force was so hard that it cinched down to the bone. So it immediately just sliced through the flesh, muscle, tendons, and all that stuff down to the bone, severing the artery coming out of your heart into your left arm. In this very specific moment, I'm still standing on the boat, and the rope, I feel a little bit of a jerk, and I go from being here with my arm at 90 degrees, just a little bit of a jerk, and just my arm just hanging straight, but me raising my shoulder, so it's like out in front of me. And I remember looking down, and literally it looked like the rope just went through my arm. Like it looked like the rope went in on the inside of my bicep and then just came out. You couldn't even see the laceration marks from where it had just cinched down, because it happened so fast and was so powerful, and it was coated in that plastic. So it like didn't even leave a mark. It literally looked like it was going in and then out. Now, at this moment, you know, my mom screams Wesley is on to my dad. My dad steps over, the driver's seat's only, you know, a couple feet away, and he unwinds that rope. And as soon as he starts to unwind it from being wrapped around my arm, it was just I mean, like bloodshed, like 24-inch white and with a little bit of red trim, wakeboard boat. Literally the whole thing became red in 30 seconds. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. It was like a movie 300 or something, or like some Quentin Tarantino movie where like one little cut, like a little slice, and then it's just like bloodshed all over the whole thing. It was wild, and I don't mean to get too graphic, but like I like to paint that picture because I was this 13-year-old kid, and all of a sudden I was like, oh man, a little twinge on my arm, and then I was like, holy shit, am I dying? Is this death? So as soon as my dad unwinds that, rips off his shirt, wraps it around, pulls it tight, tourniquet as tight as he could. Thank God. Had he not, I definitely would have died in 2 minutes. At that point, everybody on the boat starts to freak out. I instantly think that this is just a dream. I instantly think this isn't actually happening. This is one of those, like, this must be a night terror. People talk about having night terrors and stuff. Man, this sure does seem real, but this must be one of those. So while we're still putting over to my dock, my mom's yelling up to the friend who just dropped us off, saying, call an ambulance. I'm getting to the dock. My dad's holding me as my mom's trying to dock the boat. We don't know what to do. We're not familiar with the area. And we're asking these two fishermen that are outside of our dock, like, hey, where do we go? What do we do? And they tell us the local community hospital. And I tell my dad, hey, Dad, I need you to bring me to my bedroom. Because once I see myself, I'll wake up from this nightmare and we can go ride. And I think that was something pretty hard for a father to hear and realize that for better or for worse, he needed to show me the reality of this situation. So he did. And when I saw my bed and I wasn't in it, I immediately, and he was holding me, he's carrying me, a 13-year-old scrawny little kid. But that's when I kind of like took a deep breath and recognized the reality of this situation and started to think about the potential outcomes.
So you went home? You went home?
Yeah. So at our dock.
To the hospital?
No, our dock. I mean, at our dock, you walk. Our dock. Our house is at the dock. Right. But yeah, I was like, bring me inside to my bed, and then I'll know this isn't real. And he was like, no, this is real. But here's the interesting part. And I wouldn't change any of this. Wouldn't change anything for the world. But in this moment, for some reason, I did not want to leave. I said, we are going to sit here in the driveway at the lake house and wait for the ambulance to get here. The ambulance took an hour. So hindsight, it was a very poor decision. Like, we could have gotten in the car and been at level 1 trauma hospital in an hour. But we didn't. We sat there and waited. I don't know why. It was some calming. I wanted to just sit and wait, and we did. And an hour later, the volunteer EMS crew from the local Virginia Community Hospital showed up and hopped in with my mom. And that's when we were on the ride, and I was realizing how I thought my arm was in my lap. I could have sworn I felt it in my lap, but it was laying over to the left. And that's when my head, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I had no control or sensation over where my arm is or what. And I was like, this is really weird. Like, how are they just going to fix that? And that's when I asked my mom. I said, Mom, what if I lose my arm? Because, the whole time leading up to that moment, this is why I think they allowed us to just sit in the driveway. My parents allowed me to just sit there. I think they didn't know the severity. They were just like, oh, Logan, you have a really cool scar around your arm. And in that moment, I think in the ambulance, my mom started to realize the possible outcome of this as well. And when I asked her, I said, Mom, what if I lose my arm? And that's when she said, Logan, it's just an arm. Like, let's just be happy you're conscious right now. We're on our way to a medical hospital. So we get there, and they pull me in there just enough to make sure I'm not going to pass out. And then they're like, yeah, we're not a level 1 trauma. We can't do anything with this. And they call UNC and Duke Children's Hospitals. And UNC said, we have our Tar Heel 1 medical helicopter in the air. Go to these coordinates. They put me back in the ambulance, and we go like 5 minutes away to these coordinates, because this community hospital did not have a helicopter pad. And coordinates are like just a big field, just a big crop field. And they pull the ambulance up, and they open up the doors, and they're pulling me out on a stretcher. And at this time, it was like the scene of a movie. At that time, this Tar Heel 1 medevac helicopter swooping in, and then it lands like right in front of me. And I turned to the nurse and I'm like, is that for me? And she's like, yeah, that's for you. And I was like, oh, this is pretty badass. And I was quite fired up actually to get on that helicopter. Even in the midst of all that, I was like, I smiled and I was like, this is badass. And my parents couldn't get on the helicopter, so they're freaking out. They're like, we've got to rush to get to UNC Children's. So anyways, I get in a helicopter, sweet little pleasant flight, then surrounded by a ton of doctors, nurses, and all these people, ripping off my clothes, asking all these questions, go into surgery, take an artery out of my leg, put it into my arm, get the blood flow, or we get blood going into the arm. We monitor for a couple of days because the arm swells up like a balloon. And the conclusion is, after a few days of monitoring and that blood not starting to pulse, the pulse coming back in and pumping that blood out, we missed that window. You know, when you lose circulation, you have about this 6 to 8 hour window to reintroduce blood flow to save the muscles. And we were just on the tail end of that window. So my outcome was the amputation of my left arm, decided by my parents. The doctors were open to continuing to try to rehabilitate this arm. They were fearful of gangrene, but they left the decision up to my parents. And I'm so thankful for the decision they made. Like 100% would have made the same one. But they said, you know, let's not go down this road of rehabilitation and limb salvage. And, you know, we know it'll never be the same, but maybe he'll get some functional use out of it and he'll have the aesthetics of having it. My parents said, no, this is a crazy active kid. Like, yeah, it's unfortunate to lose an arm, but like, let's just be done with it. And that was the mentality of, okay, this is the reality. Let's amputate the arm and let this kid move on with his life. And I'm so thankful that they had that perspective, because that's what happened. And then, yeah, I was in the hospital for 2.5 more weeks. They did a lot of monitoring of what was going on and making sure I wasn't getting any sort of gangrene infection from how long we tried to save the arm. Had tons of friends coming to visit me. Like, we turned that place into freaking playground for kids. So that was my experience, man.
You know, once you got through that surgery, you got through that amputation, one of the things that I've heard you talk about a couple times is that you had this moment in the hospital where you were standing in front of a mirror, you're looking at this kid with one arm and you started crying. And what's interesting to me is that you said you never cried about it again. You never grieved about it again. So was that a moment of clarity for you, a moment of acceptance and something that motivated you to move forward?
Yeah, I love that you asked that question to bring that up, because it's a critical part of the healing process, whatever you want to call it, the making sure you've recognized what has happened and you take full ownership of it and realize this is the reality before you try to move on and make things better. So the grief aspect, which I experienced there, which, yes, in my life since then, I never have grieved over the loss again, but it was critical that I did. And that came in the fashion, just like you said, Chad, like waking up in the middle of the night and then just trying to go to the bathroom and being like, oh my God, what is this figure? Like, I am a freak in my mind now. And I'm like, I am one of those people that I was like concerned about or fearful of when I was younger, you know? And that was heavy. It was very heavy. And I then sat on the bed with my mom and we cried. Yeah, we cried. And I was never really an emotional kid before, definitely not before, and really not so much after. But in that experience, and even up until that moment, like that day, I wasn't like struggling. I was very much like messing with my friends that were visiting. We were messing with my arm and moving it around. Like, I was having a good time. I wasn't in this like weird limbo where I was like, oh, why me? That thought never happened. What never happened was, why did this happen to me? I've never thought that in a way of, this is unfair. This should have happened to someone else. But the grief occurred because I was like, wow, I am now the person that I used to think little of. Like, I am now the person that my judgment, and I'm embarrassed to say, but it's the truth. Like, as a kid, I thought people with disabilities were like very scary. Like, I didn't want to talk or be associated or go up to them. Like, I thought there was a lot going on. I thought, I was an idiot. I thought, it could be contagious or something. Like, I was such an idiot. And now here I am looking in the mirror, and I'm like, I am a disabled person. I'm a handicapped person now. And that was hard. But what we did through the grief is we sat down, and this is a part that I haven't talked about much, but this was in 2004, and Facebook and all that stuff wasn't very prevalent. And so we were using, in order to communicate with the communities, we were using what's called care pages. You guys remember those? Ever heard of those? It's like Facebook, but for this exact scenario. You're in the hospital, you need support, you want to tell people, give them updates of what's going on. You use this site called care pages. We had made one. One was made by my older brother's friend, and my 6th grade math teacher made it for me as soon as the accident happened. And we would check it every now and then. But in this moment, when I started to cry and really have this grieving moment with my mom, we opened up the care page. And this was the coolest thing to see. It gives me goosebumps to talk about it. We opened up the care pages. We started reading these very thoughtful messages from my peers. A lot of my parents, family, friends, a lot of adults, but also a lot of 12, 13, and 14-year-old boys and girls. The part that made me so emotional in such a positive way were the messages from my friends, other 12, 13, 14-year-old boys, telling me how sorry they were that they were at camp when this happened. They would have done anything to be there to visit me in the hospital. And they missed me, and that they loved me. And that the words, "I love you," from 12, 13-year-old boys does not happen. Like, that's this time in your life, you're trying to be the coolest, most macho badasses you can be. You're trying to beer bong Dr. Peppers and go slap girls' asses on the beach. Like, that's what you were trying to do, trying to be cool. And here we are in this moment, and all of that judgment or persona of I need to be this tough dude, man thing was dropped. It was, we're all here and we all love you, and we're here to help or listen or whatever we can. And those were more moments of tears, of joy, and of extreme gratitude of like, how lucky am I to have a support network, a group, individuals that care this much and that are thinking about me, and friends that I normally cut up with and we get in fights with, and sometimes beat each other up every now and then, and then we can just flip a switch and love each other. So the human spirit at that age, when that happened, I was like, this is so refreshing. This is so enlightening to realize, because I didn't know what it's like to grow up. I didn't know what it was supposed to or gonna look like to go through high school and become an adult and start to have your first relationship. I didn't know all that stuff. I was a 13-year-old kid, just lost his arm. And here I saw how tough friends who want to be badasses and rebels and skateboard and whatnot, could just let our guards down and love each other. And that was super emotional. And the grieving went from grieving the loss to emotionally just tears of gratitude, joy, appreciation. And then after that session, and this was like middle of the night, told my mom, I said, "Mom, I'll never grieve like that again, because all these messages, all of this is the coolest thing. This is the coolest thing in the world. And I would have never seen this. I would have never seen that these friends feel this way, or that I feel this way about my friends, if this didn't happen." And so now I'm so in love with the friendships I have and the people in my life. And, sad, bummer, lost an arm, but God, isn't that a good thing now?
That's incredible, man. I mean, what a viewpoint for a 13-year-old to be able to have that support. And I think at any age, you recognize that someone loving you can kind of pull you through anything, even if it's, your friends or whatever it is. Showing that support goes such a long way, and being able to say, okay, it's not me going through this. We're doing this together, and we can actually helps me get through it because I know I have support at that level.
Absolutely. That's all it takes.
Absolutely. So I'm curious about the next level. Like, we know you as an athlete. We know you as probably one of the most amazing athletes we've ever come across.
Oh my God, you're making me blush.
I'm not kidding.
Really?
I am not.
Absolutely.
I'm not kidding one bit. And, we know you from the CrossFit world and from coming to camp and doing these absolutely incredible physical feats. And I'm curious for you, like, how much, one, like getting into CrossFit, how long it took you, when that happened, but more how you became identified and how you identify yourself as being an athlete now and being someone that is kind of looked to as, my God, like, there is no obstacle in my way as an athlete that I should ever feel is something that can't be overcome. Look at what Logan has done. Look at what some of the others, some other adaptive athletes that come through camp are able to do. And I'm just kind of curious how you view yourself as an athlete these days. If you see there really is any obstacle that you can't overcome from a physical standpoint, you look like anything that it put in your way, like, I can figure that out. I can do that. And it's absolutely incredible to me. An example is, you came and did your handstand station with me, and you have one arm, and you did every single part of our handstand station. You did the handstand push-ups, you did the handstand holds, you did the handstand walking. You figured it out. It was unbelievable. Everybody else in the whole group in camp was just like, all right, we thought you can come over, maybe listen to the station, get some information. It was unreal. It was unbelievable. And I think you attack that same mentality to every physical feat that you kind of have in front of you. And I'm curious, like, do you just look at every obstacle as being achievable and saying, I can overcome this? And like, how do you view yourself now as an athlete?
Oh my gosh. Oh, it is just, you literally making me blush by saying all these kind of things, Dave. It's too sweet of you.
It's the truth, man. It's the truth.
An athlete and coach, but thank you, first of all. And secondly, no, I don't think that way. I do not think, all right, what's next? Show me the next challenge. I got this. I'll figure it out. No, I never think that, frankly. Like, that's like, for that example, walking up to the handstand station, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, how am I going to do this? Am I going to do this? Can I? I don't know. Can't. It's just pure unknown. And I think that is the part that I'm obsessed with. Environment, situations where you can't know. You can't. It doesn't. I'm never one to be cocky. I'm always more on the side of, like, realist in my own abilities. Like, I'm not ever like, yeah, I got this. Yeah, I'll totally do this. No, I think the opposite. I don't know, but I'm definitely I'm going to know after these attempts. Like, I don't know, but I'm going to try so many times in so many different variables and ways that after my efforts, I'll conclude, okay, that's not possible. Or, okay, yeah, it was possible on attempt 97. It was possible. So it's that, and again, it goes back to maybe the competitiveness of myself, competing against myself. It's just trying to overcome or figure out a solution. And I think I am just very interested in situations where you can't plan, you can't forecast, you can't, and which ties in directly to why I probably like CrossFit. Like, what is that? And that's what it is. I think that's, trust me, man, I've never been clinically diagnosed with, like, ADD or ADHD, but if I don't have it, I don't know who does, because I can't stay on one thing very long. Like, I'm all over the freaking place. I've never been more dedicated to anything in my life than I've been to CrossFit and to fitness, which is, I don't know, I guess good or bad, however you want to do that. But I guess that's the truth. And I think it's because it's always different. And yeah, whatever you want to call that, CrossFit, great, but it's just fitness in general. In how I pursue fitness. Like, I'm pursuing it for my general physical preparedness and for interest in just a desire to discover human potential. Like, those are my motivating factors. I have seen so many examples, not myself, but through others. I have seen countless examples of remarkable perseverance in beating the odds. And those individuals, those examples and stories and people I've gotten to meet are what motivate me to be like, oh my God, the human potential is, it's why I say it all the time. It sounds cliche, but this is what I'm thinking in my head when I say it. When I say human potential is far greater than we believe, Yeah, I know a dude who's a T6 paraplegic, complete, spinal cord injured right at his chest. He can do sit-ups, he can crawl on all four limbs. Like, that is literally impossible medically, physiologically, but he does it. He can do it. And there are countless other examples that do the same. And so what are we doing here? We're not like thumbing our nose at the medical industry being like, you guys are wrong. We can do, we're just discovering more potential, more possibility in humans. Similarly to, I don't know the timeline of all this stuff, but years ago, people thought running, what just happened? Adam Klink, like a sub 5 minute mile, a 500 pound back squat, 50 unbroken pull-ups, same day. 10 years ago, pretty sure that was deemed impossible. Pretty cool. Like, we're far more capable than we believe. And it's not at all, I'm not even limiting that physically. Like, in our professional lives and our ability to think, to problem solve, like, we are far more advanced and capable than we give ourselves credit for. And so I get really excited about opportunities where we get to exercise our creative thinking or our ability to problem solve. And I guess I'm pretty conditioned to that because I do it a lot. I do it often. Even if it's like bringing groceries in. I'm like, how many groceries can I fit on this one arm and in my hand? And this is probably like a CrossFitter problem. Yeah. But like, and still open my door and unlock it by pressing the thing, get the knob to turn. Like, I'm interested in that. I'm trying to do more than what I probably could or should do. As an athlete, I don't know, man. I don't think I'm special or any different than anyone else. I just think I'm too dumb to quit a lot of times.
But I think a lot of us have that problem for sure. And I will go ahead and guarantee one thing. You can carry more groceries on your one arm than I can on my two. I hate trying to carry a lot of groceries, and I'm a weightlifter. I like to do one rep and be done with it, but I will make 5 or 6 or 7 different trips out to the car, back into the house, just so I don't have to carry a lot of groceries for some reason. But
dude, my credit is to my adaptive training techniques, because I swear I load up this little nub with like freaking 9 bags, man. This has just become like a coat hook. This thing's always carrying stuff. It helps out a lot.
There you go. Well, we've been talking about you as an athlete, and it's really cool to hear your mindset and the way that you approach things, and that, I'm not sure, but I'm going to figure it out. And that's definitely what I believe makes you a great adaptive coach. And that's what all this has really led to, is you being an adaptive coach, you being a part of the Adaptive and Inclusive Training Academy that we'd like you to talk about a little bit. Yeah. And you also have a foundation, and those things are really, when it comes down to it, those things are really about inclusion, right? So as you talk about that, I wonder also, as you were coming up in CrossFit, as you were trying to get back into being an athlete and doing all these things, did you yourself have issues with inclusion with other people, maybe not maybe purposely and unpurposely leaving you out because they weren't sure what to do with you?
Yeah, great question. And that explaining that will help people understand why I'm so passionate about this. But yeah, man, when I first started CrossFit, my goal was to pursue my own physical fitness and see how I can develop as an athlete and individual. But the mission was to empower others, and specifically people with disabilities. I wanted to use myself as a test subject, as a dummy, to try to see what this world of functional fitness looks like, how adaptable is it, and what benefits come from it. And so that's a huge reason why I was so dedicated and so consistent with my own training. Specifically for me as an upper extremity athlete, I wanted to know how I could mitigate some of the atrophy I was developing, some of the severe asymmetries I was developing. And generally speaking, functional fitness, for the most part, like cured that, corrected it, developed me on this side in ways that I could never before when I would sit there, isolate everything in the gym. So I had a lot of development happening here. But my goal has always been to make it so that it's not different for somebody with one arm, one leg, in a wheelchair to roll or walk in to any group fitness class or any Globo gym. It's no different than an able-bodied individual going to work out. Like that's the mission. The mission is, the goal is that it's not a big deal if you see me working out in a class with a bunch of 2-arm people. I know I have to say that with an understanding that it's different now. And I'm saying this not in a sense, not from a perspective of I don't appreciate the recognition and the opportunity I get like this podcast. Like I wouldn't be on here if it wasn't a big deal for a 1-arm athlete to do some crazy things. But I am. And I'm on here to make this more normal and accessible for people with impairments moving forward. That's the reason the education side of it started. Started originally with us being a CrossFit course, just to start to train CrossFit affiliate owners so that they would be prepared. Because in my opinion, CrossFit is an incredible platform and very inclusive in general. So it made the most sense for this methodology to adopt these adaptive principles. And when we did, the impact was huge. We realized that we were servicing a need that was a lot greater than we really anticipated, because there are only a couple people in the world that were doing that sort of stuff. And then it's kind of like, build it and they will come. Like we had to create the education, let them know this was a thing that was being offered. More adaptive athletes started popping up all over the world. And then, a year ago, or a little over a year ago now, CrossFit, we left CrossFit as a course under their umbrella as Red Shirts, became our own entity. That's when we really established ourselves as the Adaptive Training Academy. When we did that, we realized our education had a much broader impact than just in CrossFit. So we started teaching more of our principles and methodologies as how to, first of all, understand language definitions, what an adaptive athlete is, how to take away this quote unquote coaching paralysis that occurs with these athletes, because no 2 athletes are the same, especially adaptive athletes. So we worked diligently on creating curriculum that was applicable absolutely to CrossFit, but broader than that as well. Applicable to therapists, recreational, occupational, physical therapists, because the goal is to just empower this population to feel that they have an inclusive opportunity wherever they go. If they want to go to a Globo gym, if they want to go to Orange Theories, F45s, that's fine. Like we just want them to feel that there's a place for them. And that's been the mission. It's been the mission ever since. And so I, over the past few years, I would do that purely out of passion and my desire to contribute and be a part of this movement. And then I saw an opportunity as this pandemic started in March. I left my full-time job at Life Aid. So I was working for Life Aid as their East Coast sales manager and doing really well there. Freaking awesome company, and they're still family to me. But it was actually incredible. Like Aaron Hine, the president there, saw me at Wadapalooza, saw the contribution I was making to the adaptive division, things we were doing there, the booth we had, and we were selling all this adaptive gear and adaptive t-shirts, and I'm hanging out over there, and Aaron comes over to me and he's like, man, this is what you were meant to do. Like, without a doubt, this is what you're meant to do. Like, and let's figure out, he's like, I'm not firing you. If you want to be like a beverage mogul like one day and just work in the beverage industry, like stick with us, we'll get you there. But he's like, this is what you're supposed to do in this life. And I was like, I absolutely agree. I was like, thank you so much, Aaron. This is something I've been battling for months, trying to figure out my direction and where I'm going here. And he made it easy to have a conversation about, all right, how do I still help Life Aid, help support Fit Aid, but go do my own thing. And then lockdown happened, and people are getting furloughed. People, not anybody at Life Aid, people are, and they come to me and they're like, Logan, are you really, like, I was going to leave at the end of March, like, do you really still want to leave? Like, you can stick around. And I was like, no, man, this just like you were saying earlier, Dave, like the Jocko mindset, like, okay, everything's going wrong, good. And that's exactly the mindset I had in that moment at the end of March, where I was about to make this huge decision. Like, I got to pay a mortgage. I got to do all this. I got to live. And the world's shutting down. And I quit my job and went all in, went full time with Adaptive Training Academy. And we spent, Alec, co-founder and partner, he lives out in San Diego. he came out to North Carolina in the middle of all this, do not travel or don't go anywhere. Came out here and we spent 4 weeks locked in a room developing our course into an online format. Talking with CrossFit HQ, making sure we're using similar authoring systems, similar processes. We're developing interactions, all this crazy stuff. I mean, it's literally our live seminar times 10. Because we realized our live seminar was restricted to being 7 hours a day, and we wanted to expand that. So we did for 4 weeks, 20-hour days for 4 weeks straight. And I say that because, like, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I am freaking proud of what we put together from not having any experience or knowledge of how to develop online curriculum and how to pick the right learning management system out of freaking thousands that exist out there. Incredible learning experience. In the response, we launched the course in May because we had a whole European tour scheduled this year. We were going to be in Italy, France, Belgium, Spain. We were crushing it as an organization with our live seminars. That's our bread and butter. And so this online course filled that need perfectly. All of these attendees took this online course. The feedback was remarkable. And we encouraged critical feedback. We were like, please tell us what we did wrong. Please tell us where this could be better. We got some, which is great. It absolutely wanted it. But the reach, the response, I live in New Zealand. I never thought I would get to see this education. Now I just took your online course. We're starting a program. I'm teaching 10 adaptive athletes virtually now. Like, that is one example of hundreds where I could die and go to heaven. Like, that's mission accomplished. Like, we are empowering people through education. They're taking this information, turning it into their own, creating their own program, and then affecting their own communities directly. These athletes, these individuals who were deemed culturally or socially less capable are now empowered. They're feeling there's a purpose, there's a place for them. There's a place not only to go in order to pursue fitness, but there's a place to go where somebody has your health and wellness in their best interest, and they want you to meet or achieve your goal. And like, that's the coolest thing that I'm so thankful I get to be a part of. And like, it's very simple in nature. Like, it's a lot of the stuff that you guys know as phenomenal coaches, but we just compartmentalize it and break it down. So we don't tell you how to do anything. We instead define things and tell you why we choose to do it this way. And the idea is to give you this to equip you with this filtration, this sort of black box where any athlete, no matter what, you understand the process, how to take them through in your mind as a coach through this process to ensure the most effective and safe programming or workout for the individual, and how to understand their needs best. So, not to turn this into an educational moment, but just for the listeners, I would like to define, just on here, just explain like a definition we make, which is that of an adaptive athlete. We all hear that term, we know it, it's an empowering term. It's way better than using a term like a disabled athlete. So we've adopted that term as like the statement for people with physical cognitive impairments. But we define an adaptive athlete as a person with a cognitive or physiological impairment that causes limitations, which are observable and measurable, which affects work capacity. So really the key three terms there is, okay, yes, they have an impairment. It causes some limitations, which affects their work capacity. This impairment is permanent. These limitations are observable and measurable, whether that means, like, for example, you may have a fused ankle and a few vertebrae fused in your back. You walk in the door, I can't see that. I'm a coach, and I'm like, all right, you're fit, you're able-bodied, fit person, come on, jump in this class. We start asking some questions. We observe, okay, yes, I've had my ankle fused, my lower back, I have some fused discs here, so it's hard to get a lot of that lower back flexion. Okay, I'd like you to do an air squat. I do an air squat, I see the heel lift, I see the chest fall forward, I see that there's no rounding of the lower back. Do a deadlift. Okay, you observe the responses the body makes, so you see the limitations happen. That obviously affects work capacity because there are limitations due to those issues caused by the impairment. That way you've broken down, and as a coach, you now understand where you can make an impact, which is to increase work capacity and decrease limitations. There's nothing we can do about impairment, or that's not, maybe there is, that's not the goal though, as a trainer. We're not trying to change their impairment for them. We're trying to decrease limitations, thus increasing work capacity. And that's done through whatever method you may try. I mean, we explain a lot of different methods and maximizing limb usage and quarter extremity principles and things of those nature. But understanding the definition of an adaptive athlete, if that's all you get, you're already in a more comfortable place to say, okay, all right, I can work with any athlete. And what comes of that, the epiphany a lot of coaches, trainers, therapists have, is they say, oh my gosh, this is the filter in which I should look at every human, ultimately. This isn't specific to a population. This is how we should be developing the most effective and safe training programs and environments for individuals. So that's really where it started. And we're just so fortunate that the impact and the reach is getting beyond the intended audience, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. All good things end up working out that way. I think, you come in with some intention, with some purpose of what you want to create and who you want to create it for. And you put enough work into it, and it's good. It's going to be, usually applicable somewhere else. And
yeah,
really glad that you guys put that together. That's exciting to hear that you've got the online version now. So obviously any gym owners, any coaches out there that are interested in learning how they can be better in this regard and therefore be more inclusive to many more people, adaptive athletes and otherwise. And also, as you mentioned, just to be a better coach in general, to be able to adapt to other people, to be able to modify for other people so they can get a better workout and in turn be more fit. Obviously, they can go and take this course. So one, can you tell us how they can find that, how they can get involved, how they can sign up for a course, for an online course? And also, for those that may not be able to do that, and you talked about this a little bit, but I wonder, what is your first recommendation, your number one recommendation that you would give a gym owner or coach to get on the right path, to get on the right track of being more inclusive?
Great question. So yeah, firstly, if there's interest in learning more about the course, the curriculum within it, and taking it, please go to adaptivetrainingacademy.com. On there, you can learn about all the different details of the course, the context in it, and have a lot of your questions answered as well. And for a gym owner or coach who wants to become better in their environment, more accessible and inclusive, first of all, it starts with facility preparation. Like that's the number one thing that we see often, especially in these CrossFit gyms. They're typically more of this, sometimes more of this warehouse style, and ADA compliance is maybe not the most important thing for a lot of gyms. So it's very simple in facility prep and accessibility, with like having the appropriate ramp and being ADA compliant in your bathrooms and things of that nature. And then also just thinking about what is the layout of the facility. And this is not at all to belittle gyms. This isn't meant to be like, oh my gosh, I thought we were great and we stack our plates, and that's really hard for people to get weights off of stacked plates. That's fine. That's fine. But these are thoughtful things you could consider if you're instilling the message of inclusivity and accessibility in your facility. You need thinking about the little things make the biggest impact. And that's a very general statement, but it just is implying, that we are very meticulous to the details of facilities. And similarly, ATA, as we certify trainers, we also certify facilities. So we have the ATA affiliate that does just that. And it allows the adaptive population to have comfort and have a resource to find qualified trainers, but also training facilities. So through that, we're basically using our seal of approval to say this facility has on staff an ATA trainer. They are ADA compliant within their entire facility. They are accessible with the appropriate ramps, and there's not levels of flooring within the floor, so a seated athlete could easily get around within the facility. The bathrooms, the showers, ADA compliant, things of that nature. Then they get the approval and they get put on our affiliate map. So if I'm traveling in Chicago, I can look up an ATA affiliate there and know that this facility is inclusive, accessible, and certified in adaptive training. So that's a way that we can also continue to empower the individual, because, you know, the reality of the situation is that 1 in 5 people in the United States have a permanent physical disability. 1 in 5 people. The interesting part of that statistic is when you ask most people, who do you know with a physical disability? Most people don't. Most people, it's not something they can just come up with off the top of their head. And if it's 1 in 5 people, then what we've done is, culturally, societally, it's apparent through that statistic that these people are more confined to staying home, right? The world is not fit for them. So it's much easier to stay home and not become a social animal and be networking and collaborating and talking, going places. Like, the world's difficult. And so as we begin, like, that's a problem we're trying to solve. And a way that we can do that is make the individual, through the internet, through a map, say, oh my gosh, okay, I live right here in Raleigh. There are 10 gyms that are ATA certified around me. Huh, maybe the world is a little bit more accessible than I thought. And if their first impression to get out of the house, to get out of a sedentary life, and sitting on the couch, is that, looking through our map, finding a gym, they roll or walk into that gym, and they have this impression of, hey, oh, you're in a wheelchair. Oh, sweet. Do you have a sports chair? Does it have cambered wheels? Oh, man, that's so great. What level spinal cord injury are you? Oh, that's awesome. We've got 3 seated athletes that come here twice a week. You should meet them. Like, you just blew their minds, and you just made them feel more a part of something than probably ever in their life since the injury or accident. So that is the mission, the objective that we're on, is to make this that normal that it's just everywhere. You can go to any gym and you're treated the same. You're just another member or another part of the community.
I love that. I think what you guys are doing is just such a needed thing right now. And, you know, we've seen the value with the adaptive course that we have at Power Monkey Camp, with you and Alec and Caroline all kind of collaborating on something, and Tina's assistance as well. But
yeah,
we see the people that come to camp, the coaches that own gyms and the owners that come through there and sit in on the seminar and say, man, this is so valuable that we know that our members, not only the people that are adaptive athletes, but all of our members would find this valuable, because maybe they have a family member at home that they know would benefit from this information, or maybe they have someone else that they can pass this along to that can kind of assist and get them out of that house, or get them to be more active and get them into a community that can make them feel like they're welcome. And I think it's such a critical piece in being able to, you said 1 in 5 people. I mean, that's incredible to be able to get more people kind of moving, one, but also feeling like they have people to lean on, and we know how important that community aspect is.
Right, exactly. And, you know, from a professional development perspective, for a coach, trainer, gym owner out there who is hesitant to obtain education or information like this, which I totally understand, please understand that, like, a lot of the feedback we get is that this course just makes you a general better coach. Because the term we don't like to use, that is used often, especially in the CrossFit space, is scaled.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think a lot of people understand why. But, like, all you're saying is customized. Like, all you're saying is, when you say scaled, it's a demeaning way of saying, hey, we want you to get the best result out of this workout, the most optimal result in a safe way that maintains inclusion for you, safety for you and the rest of us, and you want to come back. Like, you enjoy it and you want to come back. So matching the stimulus is a nice added bonus too. You actually feel what this workout's supposed to feel like. That's really what we're teaching you. We're teaching you how to be an expert at customizing workouts. Once you've taken this knowledge, and yes, you've learned about all these impairment groups, and now you have a better understanding about neurological conditions and how they're affected, and proper coaching and cueing for those, and the difference between an AK and a BK leg amputee and their prosthetics and their equipment. You learn all that stuff. Great. But you just walk away being a better coach. You just leave knowing, okay, now I know how to serve the needs of my members in a more thoughtful way that makes sure, if nothing else, they know every time they do a workout that there's incredible intention behind it. And I think if nothing else, it doesn't matter how hard a workout is, if you knew going into the workout, the intention is for you to suffer right now, then you're like, okay, I'm doing it right. All right, this is going well. This is how this is supposed to feel. Mm-hmm. Adaptive or not, that's fulfilling. And that makes you more confident and trusting in your coach, in your gym, in your community, which leads to more buy-in and more commitment and more positive outlook and support to the other members and people in the gym. So it is just this full circle thing. And, and it doesn't stop there. And yeah, a lot of athletes and individuals would be interested in this education too, to take to someone they may know. But we don't stop with this course. This course is the first start. It is our level 1 to education. We listen to our community a lot, and we have weekly calls with every previous course graduate or current learner in our course, and we get on a Zoom call. I actually did it right before this call. We had a 1-hour call, and we had a guy from Italy on there, with someone in Canada on there, and we answer questions, we hear their feedback, and we are currently developing what I think will be a really, really cool course that will have a huge impact in bringing more communities together, is our ASL course, so American Sign Language. Just so instead of looking at, we have a sensory course, which teaches you how to work with deaf, hard of hearing, visually impaired athletes. Great. But we're going to have just a course dedicated to ASL for trainers. So what's cool about that is, what I'm most excited about is the future of that will be the course you can take, but then you also get a little downloadable to have as reference for common gestures and burpee, things of that nature that you need to be able to sign potentially. But the coolest thing, I think, which would really make this full circle, is the infographic that you'll get for your facility. So imagine in a gym, there's a big infographic that maybe tells you the 10 most common encouragement phrases in CrossFit, and you could do them in ASL. You can be across the gym from someone just finished, and you could give them the sign to don't stop now or whatever. I think that gets me fired up, because it's a community that I'll be the first to admit we haven't done a good job at representing within adaptive training. Oftentimes, we're assuming physical impairments. We're assuming missing an arm, missing a leg, you're in a wheelchair. We are way more inclusive than that. And we know we don't know everything. So we use the collaborative network approach to pull in experts from those fields to make sure we're developing the most credible content to support. And that's the model right now. So I'm very excited about the ASL course that'll come out soon. We'll have an adaptive strength and conditioning course that'll come out in the next few months. We'll have a certification track. So there's a whole new learning track that we're going to have. I mean, it never ends, man. We're constantly working on evolving it, because it doesn't stop with just creating one course and saying, all right, now we've made things a little bit more accessible and inclusive. No, the goal is, and this sounds, please don't take this wrong, but global domination. This is going to be everywhere, in the sense that there's no excuse. There's no more excuses. There's no more reason for people with impairments to have to live a sedentary lifestyle, one of which they're well, I would do that if I didn't have this, or I could if this wasn't my situation. No, we don't need that anymore in this world, and people need to be reminded that they are far more capable than they believe. We're here to show you and to empower you to pursue your human potential.
Yeah, Logan, this is fascinating. It's incredible. Just want to say real quick, hats off to you guys, man. You're doing an incredible job. And, as you mentioned, the work is never done. And, I know you guys we worked with you guys enough to know that you're going to keep your head down and keep pushing through. And as good as I know this stuff already is, I know it's going to get better. And absolutely, I believe you're going to spread it around the world.
Hey man, only thing to happen next is the Power Monkey Adaptive Camp.
Hey,
That's
that's something. You know that's something that I wanted to do for a while now.
I know it, dude.
So
hey, listen, we just made it real.
Tell us when.
We just made it real.
We just put it out into the ether there.
Put it into the podcast.
When you're ready to go, we'll ready to make it happen on our end. I already, set some things in motion with the facility to kind of make some things more aligned with wheelchair accessibility and some other things to make it more feasible to have those kind of things around camp. But I would love to do that.
That is without a doubt going to happen sooner than later. And I can't, every listener, you guys, I said it in the beginning of this podcast, this is the coolest freaking week of your life if you're into fitness. I don't even care. You don't have to do you don't know anything about CrossFit. Like, in my opinion, you guys make me think differently, but like, it's the freaking coolest week of your life. Now, if you match that for a population of people who believe or feel more often than not that they're alone, oh my God, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it happen, man.
Yeah, it's definitely happening.
I'm ready for it.
Get ready, gang. It might be end of this year. It might be beginning of next year. I don't know about the specifics yet, but
all right.
Please, if you're a part of the adaptive community or you're looking to get involved, check out Adaptive Training Academy and stay up to date with Power Monkey, because go to Power Monkey if you can. Don't wait for the adaptive camp. But if you are an adaptive athlete, just know that we're in the process of developing the most game-changing, life-changing camp for you that will be posted soon.
Absolutely.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
So I know we've been on for a while now, and I'm sure you got to go, but I have another question. Are you cool with getting another question going? I'm curious about prosthetics.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about where prosthetics are now. And one, have you ever thought about having prosthetic? And then also the possibility of prosthetics getting to the point in the near future at some point where maybe they're even better than your actual arm. And you know what I mean? Like, it has the ability to be a robotic arm in some sense. And, we see this a little bit with some of the prosthetic legs that are being used in Paralympics and things like that. Cheetah legs maybe and things like that they don't fatigue and they don't have pain, and they work from kind of a structural standpoint very similar kind of to an actual leg. I'm curious where you stand right now in prosthetics in terms of your own use and their viability and their usability in the fitness world.
Yes. Oh, I love this question. Thank you for asking this, because I typically don't talk about this. And there's something most people don't know about me, is that I spent quite a bit of time in college studying 3D printing, additive manufacturing. I created it as an independent study at UNC Wilmington, and along with the business degree. And in that, the business application of it that I was studying it's specifically with orthotics and prosthetics. And after I graduated, I originally went to an IT company and started working, but then I left to start my own consulting company for orthotic and prosthetics. And so I worked with a company here in North Carolina for a year implementing additive manufacturing. And, I've been exposed to prosthetics ever since the loss of my arm. So first, let me just talk about my perspective on prosthetics. I, as an upper extremity above the elbow individual, I don't think that they're beneficial for daily tasks, for like just quality of life function. I've had a lot of them. I've had the myoelectric, got 3 computers in it, cost $250,000, like insane arm, with skin on it, with hair and nails, all that stuff. I've had the body powered arm that looks like a pirate hook, and it's carbon fiber, and you couldn't break it. You can shove it in mud, water, anything, and it's indestructible. I've had a swimming arm, just a small short arm with a paddle on it that folds when I come this way and opens. I've had an arm to help with motocross, to help with jet skiing, all sorts of stuff. I would say prosthetics for upper extremity athletes above elbow are training wheels. It's a confidence booster. It's this device you get that you think you need 2 for, and you realize, okay, maybe I don't need this cumbersome, intrusive thing on me anymore. I can take it away. Now, it's very different for a below elbow amputee. If I were a below elbow amputee, I would probably have a prosthetic I would wear for a lot of things, and it would be very helpful for daily tasks. Because, like you mentioned, Dave, like, we've got some pretty awesome stuff for lower extremities. But look at the complexity, the biomechanics of arms. Like, look at this. These are the I don't know if you're just listening, you're not seeing this, but I'm freaking wailing my arm around in every direction. Mm-hmm. And how would you imagine developing the appropriate engineering to do all this? And I know that's aggressive in advance, but what, just simplistic in design and nature, what does the leg need to do? It needs to, just hinge at the knee, create some swinging from the hip. And if you can get some good heel-toe contact to mimic a good gait, then you're on your way. Like, you've got a good prosthetic. If you're a below knee amputee, you're really like, you just need a good fitting socket with the appropriate foot, and you're good. You're good to go. Incredible. And it is required if you want to be ambulatory. So if you want to be able to walk, like, you have to wear the prosthetic. I can walk all day long and have one arm. So, like, I can ambulate as a one-arm amputee, no problem. I can walk places, go sit down, stand up, lay down, get up. So it's a lot less required for just standard quality of life for an upper extremity individual. And I think we are constantly moving towards more of a world where we are really one-handed friendly, more so than we were 10, 20 years ago. But we'll always be in a world where we're, for the most part, like, 2 legs needed. I don't know. I hope we don't get to the point where you're just sitting all the time, getting zoomed around and stuff.
Wally, right?
Yeah, exactly. But who knows? So, yes, the prosthetics are remarkable, and they're absolutely needed, required for lower extremity amputees to have quality of life, to have the independence and functionality they need. And the technology is there. The technology is awesome for the legs. The microprocessor knees that are continuing to advance and develop and become incredibly light, yet incredibly strong, with programs on your phone. You can literally set it to deadlift mode and do a deadlift as an AK, and that knee is designed to help stiffen out and help straighten you up as you deadlift and not buckle on you and make you collapse. So those are advancing in really unique, cool ways. And even to take a step further, the advancement of the socket itself, and that's the part where I think most people get confused, especially as trainers. It's something we talk about often in the course, is like, you can have a $500,000 microprocessor knee with a $50,000 ankle on it, but if the socket is uncomfortable, then there is no point in any of that for the individual. If the socket, if how they put their stump, their residual limb into that thing is not comfortable, what the hell do you expect them to do with this thing? Of course they're going to want to take it off. Of course they're going to rather sit or rather use a wheelchair than wear that, or crutches than wear that. So the socket is critical, and that's why I became obsessed with the additive manufacturing. Because with additive manufacturing, we were printing, so we were little to no waste. The ridges, the lines that would happen as you print an object. So 3D printing is just thousands of layers of an object. You did it vertically, basically. Very general way of talking about it. That actually created a better fitting socket, because all those little lines, along with the gel liner that goes on the residual limb, would actually create better suction in the socket. And there's different forms of socket. There's suction. There's a pin, like a pin off the end of the socket and a hole in the bottom of the socket, and it clicks in. There's vacuum. So there's a few different ways that you can fit into the socket. But just for this, all intents and purposes, the socket has to be perfect. It has to be great for the athlete to wear it. Now, with upper extremity athletes, I believe in the training environment, we don't need prosthetics. We need assistive devices. We need things that help make accomplishing a task more effective and efficient and symmetrical. So whether for me, where I do have a little bit of humerus, but not much or not enough to be comfortable resting on my distal end. So I typically go to shoulder on things. For instance, like when we were doing the handstand station,
Mm-hmm.
I use a plyometric box. I use a plyo box. And for me, my arm length, just for me, is very custom, but like 24 inches. Like I'm good. I'm pretty much symmetrical. So I just put that box down. I can flip up, be in a handstand, be in a plank position, and I'm good. So I know that's like my go-to for that, for replacing the arm, use a box. And, deadlifts. Okay, deadlifts, throw on the harness I have. And I attach that to the bar, and I know I'm doing symmetrical deadlifts, and I'm getting incredible benefit from that. That, to me, has a much more long-lasting impact on my longevity of health and GPP than me trying to wear a prosthetic socket in the gym and incorporate it in a way that might make me more disabled or more impaired than without. So it goes back. It's so funny you bring all this up. I was listening to a podcast recently about a Joe Rogan podcast about what's natural versus unnatural.
Oh yeah, sure.
And this was the exact topic that he was talking about. Like, okay, so prosthetics, they're unnatural, but yet they're very much needed. But at what point does unnatural become artificial and superhuman, like with Oscar Pistorius and legs that actually they believe made him faster, And so it's like, where's the point? At what point do we say you're at an advantage or disadvantage? Like now we just flip the script completely. Because you were a Paralympic athlete, now you're an Olympic athlete, but now you're disqualified because you're at an advantage for being a Paralympic athlete.
Right.
So it's crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, I love the topic of prosthetics and orthotics because I actually have a lot of knowledge in it. I just don't use them. I don't wear them for myself. But I used them all, and they were all training wheels. They were absolutely confidence boosters for me to be like, okay, maybe I can swim with one arm, which I still very much suck at, but like, I know I can do it. And that's what they are to me. Training wheels for upper extremity guys.
Fair enough. Interested to see what happens with those in the next decade or so, because I think technology is just like constantly just getting a little nuts.
I tell you, I mean, imagine me when iRobot came out. Like, are you kidding me? I was like, oh my God, yes, this is it. But I'm fully expecting to live my whole life with one arm, very proudly and excitedly. So I am not hopeful or wishing for that. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. I'd love to see that technology advance, but I'm not. That's not something that would be for me.
Sounds good.
Yeah, to each is their own, though. My opinion is not that of everyone's. That's just my opinion.
Right. Well, Logan, we're coming towards the end here, and we have just a couple last questions for you. I think there'll be 3, and then we'll get you out of here. So, first one is a pretty simple one. Chad and I keep tabs on this one, so it's kind of important to us. But what sport or discipline that you prefer, gymnastics or weightlifting?
Oh my gosh! Of course. Oh.
It's all right. This is only the most important choice of your life, Logan. So
I know.
You want to make that adaptive camp happen?
Yeah. Oh man, that is a really tough one. But if I'm really being as unbiased as possible here, I would say weightlifting. I'm sorry, Dave.
All right, fine.
I'm sorry, Dave.
See, Logan, you and I have always had a special connection. I knew it. I was sending those waves to you.
That is true.
But no, it's definitely a tough choice, but I will take that, Dave. I'm so glad that I snuck another one in. So, I'm on a decent little streak here. You got one last time, but I'll take this, and thank you for that, Logan.
Well, it's a really weird perspective for me, because if gymnastics is freaking hard. Like I can. Shouldn't say can't. I can do a bar muscle up, but
right.
I will. Like that's something that actually I don't mean.
I gotta teach you a backflip at the next camp. That'll change your whole world.
Yes. I don't mean to take up more time, but I do want to bring this up because like this, I think this reveals that I'm more human than a lot of people make me out to be. But like, if there's ever anything that I think about, I'm like, man, I wish I had 2 arms. It's within CrossFit. It's within this training. Like I've never had that thought with wakeboarding, with surfing, with anything. I'm always just with lacrosse. I played lacrosse, like collegiate lacrosse. And I would never thought like, if I just had 2 arms, I would dominate. I mean, I knew I would be a lot better if I had 2 arms, but I never wasn't like, oh, if I just had. But in fitness, in gymnastics specifically, I'm always like, if I just had that fucking arm, I would crush muscle up. I would do so many ring muscle ups. So it is, you know, it's that little bit of like, you know, you wish what you can't have, you know, you always want.
Sure. Yeah.
But I love it. I love gymnastics. I do toes to bar. I do also, you know, Dave.
Yeah, you do, man.
So
I got to bring up your rope climb, man. I'm still like, I'll think about that every now and then, just randomly. Just if I see a rope, I'm like, man, you remember seeing Logan climb that rope? Because I know that you can climb a rope significantly faster than me with 2 arms. It's amazing.
I was talking about this the other day to somebody on some podcast, but like, I want an extreme challenge. And maybe we should do this at Poundland Camp because you guys have the high ropes course and like you could safely pull this off. But I want to know what it's like to climb a rope 100 feet, like to keep going. Like I'm curious how high, because what is the show? It's like Beastmaster or American Ninja Warrior or one
American
of them.
Ninja Warrior. They used to do it on the Japanese version too. That Sasuke, just like an endless rope. Like that was.
It is. I think it's 100 feet something or plus 200 feet. Who knows? But I want to do that freaking rope. I want to at least try it. Now you have to let me do the footholds, but like I want to do that so badly, man.
We'll set it up at camp for you. We'll set it up.
We should
make it happen.
It'd be a crazy cool challenge.
All right. Question 2 for you, an easy one. If you could pick a guest to have on our show, who would you like to see us interview? Anybody?
Yeah, a lot of people. Man, I want to pick the right person here.
There's no wrong answer. No wrong answer.
I don't know, man. It's a tough question. I want you guys to tell more stories of like the unknown about some of the great athletes within our sport, like the ones that we put on a pedestal all the time. I would love to see a little bit more, some more human conversations with some elite athletes. Sure. Whether that is like a Matt Fraser or Rich Froning, those names that are just so iconic to the sport. But like in a setting that is like, let it be authentic. Let it be a little bit more relaxed. And I feel such an authentic vibe from you guys, and always have. And you're always so genuine. I feel like you are the two that could create a dialogue with those guys. That would be like we would learn something new about them in a new way that we've heard before.
Love that.
But similarly, you know, I say that, but then at the same time, it's like, what are you talking about, Logan? Like, I want adaptive athletes on here. I want more people, more stories of the perseverance and the adversity on here. Now, the individuals, that's why I was kind of, I didn't know what to say, because I can't just say this is one story you need to hear. There are thousands of stories you guys need to hear and tell. You know, a really cool one that is a unique perspective is this lady, girl named Kim, and she's completely blind, and she trains and competes as an adaptive athlete, and it's super, super cool. And she has just such a positive outlook on the world and just her personality and attitude. But like, she fires me up every time I get to hang out with her. Her name's Kim, and she would be such a cool story to hear.
Well, yeah, Logan, you got to get us her information, and as usual, that was a great answer. I love that answer, and I agree with you. But I would love to dig into this, you know, the backstory or the hidden stories of Rich Froning or Matt Fraser or something like that. And we do certainly have more plans to bring on more individuals with these types of incredible stories of overcoming and to help people out in that way. So thank you for that recommendation, and certainly put us in contact with your friend there if you can.
Absolutely. Now, I'll give you guys quite a few.
Last question. It's a little bit of a two-parter. The first part of it is, what do you prefer, reading books, watching movies, watching documentaries, or TV series? And of those, whichever one of those you choose, do you have a specific recommendation?
not much for TV, but very much into documentaries. And through this quarantine, I've definitely watched a few TV series. I'm literally into podcasts though. Like all I do is listen to podcasts. Okay. But if I wanted to say a TV show, literally one we just watched and we binged on this, I don't even know if I should be saying this. This might be embarrassing to admit. But on Amazon, there was this show called Upload about like, oh my God, about like what our world's going to look like in 50 years.
Did you like it?
How, like, yeah, it is. Yeah? It's fascinating.
Good?
Fascinating. Okay. I don't even know. It's like kind of corny, maybe meant for like high schoolers. I don't know. But it's about like uploading. Instead of dying, you upload yourself to this virtual reality. And then there's a lot they do in this show, very subtle things that you could totally see this is the future we could end up becoming. Like where you're 3D printing steaks for dinner and where, Oscar Mayer becomes an Intel company. And AT&T becomes AT&T and TNT because it's like technology. It's like all these other things. And so it's very funny how you, in a satirical way, how you can see the future not going too well. But it's a funny, it's an interesting show. Documentary wise though, oh my God, the Michael Jordan documentary.
Oh yeah. Get me started. Last Dance.
Yeah, Last Dance. Yeah. That's the greatest of all time. And I'm not even a huge basketball fan, but that's character. Like that's the type of person that his story was told in a way that I've always knew. Everybody's always known he's such a legend, such an iconic figure, and an incredibly unique individual that we're so fortunate to have on this earth right now. But like you watch that and then you're like, now I know why everyone and why he is who he is and how big of a name he is. And yeah, it's pretty cool. He went to school with my mom. My mom was at UNC.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, if you don't love Michael Jordan, there's got to be something wrong with you. You need to be on some sort of medication or something. I'm not sure, but
you're a Pistons fan.
Yeah, but yeah, that could be true as well. But Logan, we really appreciate your answers. Great answers. Thank you so much for taking the time being on the podcast with us. I know that the listeners are going to get so much out of this conversation that we have had with you. Certainly, we'll be talking to you again at hopefully in the near future. And we are aiming to still have Power Monkey Camp coming up late September, early October, and we definitely need to look into that adaptive Power Monkey Camp. That's for sure. So you guys keep an eye out for that. Also, head on over to powermonkeyfitness.com to check out all that and for other services and upcoming events. Check out our Instagram pages as well for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Ollie Chad. We actually also did just get a few requests through our email address, Dave, for the first time, right? We had somebody ask us to talk about the squat, believe it or not. So we will probably.
You anonymously sending in your own messages now?
I did. I created I created a fake email account just so I could request that. Just give me that opportunity. But you guys can send in those requests, ask us questions, let us know who you'd like to hear from and all that good stuff. That email address is podcast@powermonkeyfitness.com. And on behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your host. I'm Chad Vaughn with Dave Durante. And until next time, guys, thank you all for listening.